What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I think my wife and I have made our final decision. We're going to build our bug out location, let's just call it that, right here in Redfield. And so I'm over here working today, but it got me to thinking. And the past couple days I've been thinking about it. I've been writing a little list about the different things that prove Joe Biden is the worst president in United States history, period. Worse than Jimmy Carter, worse than FDR, worse than anyone else, Nixon, worse than anyone else bad that you can think about, worse than Clinton, worse than Obama. And why is that? Well, it's because, you know, he's a dementia patient basically being let loose on the United States of America, and they're using that, the left is using that to get all their policies passed, because you see, later on they can simply back off and just say, oh, well, we didn't know he was in such late stages of dementia. We didn't know he did that. Meanwhile, they're the ones telling him to do all this stuff. So to read through this, I'm going to need my They Live anti-communist glasses so I can see through the communist propaganda and tell you guys what's really going on out here. So let's get into it. It's depressing stuff, I'm going to warn you. So Joe Biden is the worst president in U.S. history. Inflation is at a 40-year high, and it's not receding. And there's no sign, there's no good outlook anywhere in the economy that indicates things are going to come down. The only direction they have to go is up, 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 and away. So stock up now if you can. If you have the means, go out and get yourself set up now, just as a hedge against inflation, if nothing else. Even if you don't think nuclear Armageddon is on the horizon, even though Joe Biden said it was, you know, who knows? He's a dementia patient, so he may not even know what room he's in, what his name is. You never know from one moment to the next, you know. And I do believe they have been pumping him full of something. I don't know if it's amphetamines or what they've been pumping him full of, but if you notice, anytime he has to do a press conference or a State of the Union or debates or whatever, he's all wiry and wily-eyed looking. And, you know, I've seen enough people throughout my life, unfortunately, that have been addicted to amphetamines, and I kind of know the signs. It's kind of twitchy and antsy, and, you know, they speak in incomplete sentences and things like that. Of course, so do dementia patients, so it could be that. Next up here, proving Joe Biden is the worst president in U.S. history. Gas prices are at the highest they've ever been under Joe Biden, and there is a direct result, and this is a direct result of his energy policies. No doubt about it. He came in and shut the Keystone down day one. There's a lot of talk whether or not the United States or NATO was involved with that, the bombing of the Nord Stream pipelines over in the Baltic Sea. I mean, it looks that way more and more as time goes on. And I heard yesterday there was another one, the Turkish pipeline or something like that. I can't remember what they called it, Turkey Stream or something like that. There was an attempt from Ukrainians, according to Russia, that the Ukrainians were trying to blow that one up as well. So all around the globe, they're basically attacking directly gas, natural gas, propane, all these sorts of things that drive the wheel of industry in the world. So it appears they're intentionally trying to shut us down. So next up here, Joe Biden surrendered Afghanistan to the Taliban and armed them with $80 billion in U.S. arms and heavy equipment as well, including 600,000 weapons and 200 aircraft. You know, in the past, when we were responsible people, we would go in, if we had to leave stuff behind because it was too expensive to get it out of there, or for whatever reason we couldn't get it out of there, we would go in there and like blow that stuff up, you know, put some C4 down the barrel so that, you know, whatever, it would explode it so that it would never be able to be used again, right? The same thing for these tanks and aircraft and stuff. They could have pulled the key components out of there, or, you know, just dropped a grenade down the cockpit of each one of them and in each engine of the planes and the aircraft and helicopters and other things like that, the tanks. They could have exploded these things before we left. You know, Biden wanted to get us out of there in such a hurry that they ended up not only leaving a whole bunch of money and arms and things like that behind and equipment for the Taliban to use against us one day, but, you know, they left American people behind, and also allies that America had sworn we were going to protect them. We swore to these people that, yeah, you know, if you come be an interpreter for us, we'll protect you and make sure that, you know, the Taliban or whatever doesn't come and get you, right? That the bad guys don't come and get you. Well, we left them high and dry, and we left several American soldiers out there. I believe the number was 13 American soldiers were killed because of that debacle. Moving on here. That one really pissed me off, by the way. I mean, just terrible, terrible thing. If you're a soldier, man, I am so sorry. I'm sorry on behalf of the American people that we elected someone so feeble and, you know, just a dementia patient. That's the best way I can describe it. You know, I don't want to run him down too much because I've known people that have had dementia and I recognize the signs. So also included in that Afghanistan debacle, the Biden regime knew that there was an Islamist bomber in the crowd at Kabul airport, but did nothing. And this cost 13 American lives, as I said. So just unbelievably irresponsible. Only someone who's trying to ruin the credibility of the United States military around the world would do something like that. Especially after all the money and stuff we had invested into the situation, you know. I wasn't against withdrawing troops and drawing down, but leaving a small presence there just to keep things, you know, going normal, right? What happens is when you do it like Biden did it, it creates a massive power vacuum, and baddies are going to come in there and fill the shoes of the people that just left. And now we've given them our weapons. So just, you know, great job proving once again he's the worst president in United States history. My opinion is he's been brought in because he has dementia, because you know, the media is basically in bed with the Democrat Party so they can control the narrative. He's been brought in to bring down the United States of America, bring us into a new world order, you know, whatever you want to call it, Great Reset, Agenda 21, 2030, pick your poison. It's all around us, guys. The people that are out there that are evil, sociopaths and psychopaths, are in power, and they want to take over the world. They can't stand it that we have freedom. They can't stand it that the United States has been the richest nation for a very long time. And of course, all that's about to come to a screeching halt because the petrodollar is in real trouble. Of course, Joe Biden ain't going to do anything to stop that or save it. He's going to do everything he can to help end the petrodollar so it ends the United States dominance around the globe. Unbelievable. Joe Biden declared open war on his political opposition. Never in my lifetime has a president come out and done the Dark Brandon thing where he was in front of the red background and just looked like Hitler or Satan himself and said that half of the country that voted for the other guy are potential domestic terrorists. You guys have seen the list. I'm not going to rehash it all. We've done entire standalone shows about this, about the DHS and all these new symbols and hate symbols, they say, which are old classical American symbols like, you know, the Liberty Tree and things like that. Talking about the founding fathers in a positive way will get you put on a domestic terrorist watch list. Talking about the Constitution in a positive way will get you put on a domestic terrorist watch list. This is America. The land of the free, the home of the brave, right? I don't know. I'm not seeing a lot of bravery anymore. I see a bunch of whimpering cowards and sheeple that are just, you know, NPCs and just stuck on whatever. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't know how they can still be stuck in the matrix like they are, but they are. They're all around us. And it's going to be the fall of the United States of America as a result of that, at least in my opinion. Unless we can turn things around, maybe the next midterms will be fair and honest, but that's about all I can say about that. But I don't know. I'm not holding my breath for any of that stuff because we know how that goes. So next up, Joe Biden and his Stasi FBI are raiding the homes of political opponents on misdemeanor charges. And this has been accelerating over the past few weeks. There were several stories about, apparently there was some Planned Parenthood protest, or these pro-life people went out and protested, and I don't know if they blocked people from getting access, or I'm not understanding what the deal is or what the allegations are that the government is using, but they're going around with their FBI Stasi and they're rounding people up and taking them to jail. And when the guy that got locked up, his wife was standing on the porch filming it, and she was talking to this FBI agent like, "Hey, what did he do? What is this about?" And he wouldn't say anything. He said, "I tried to tell you, you wouldn't listen." And at least from the interaction I saw, he didn't try to tell her. So again, Stasi FBI, that's the best way to describe them now. It's just unbelievable that, you know, the military industrial complex and the deep state, all these people are now the same people. They've been allowed to get into power and keep power. That's the problem with these career politicians that work for, you know, like NGOs and lobbyists, and, you know, they never leave. It's a revolving door. If a politician, you know, doesn't get reelected for whatever reason, maybe they've outran their term or whatever, they'll just go become a lobbyist or go work for an NGO or go work for a think tank and probably get, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for doing next to nothing. It's just unbelievable. These people that are in power are using, bigger organizations' money, like, George Soros and his Open Society Foundation, whatever it's called. Open Borders Foundation is what it should be called. The Death of the United States of America Foundation. That would be a better, descriptor of what George Soros is doing with his money all around the country. But no one's going to stop that. And again, I digress. This is about Joe Biden being the worst president in the United States history. Joe Biden opened up the border to 2 million illegal aliens this year. 1 year. 2 million that we know of illegal aliens are in our country right now. Many of these people, if not a majority of these people, are criminals. Well, for one thing, they're criminals because they crossed our border without going through the proper process. So they're automatically breaking the law when they come in here. What do you think that's going to do for their mentality towards the rest of the law? I mean, if they were already inclined to break the first law when they first crossed the border, that kind of tells me what they think about the legal system in our country. They're not going to have any respect for that. I mean, it's just unbelievably simple if you look at it the right way. Not to mention, there's all the drug lords and all these, just evil cartel members that are down there. I mean, I just read a story a couple days ago. They found like 4 or 5 heads, severed heads, on the United States side of the border because these cartel members were trying to send a message to someone. I don't know if it was to us or what, or who it was, but they're severed heads showing up, man. I mean, that's something that should get some attention. Why is this happening? Why is fentanyl coming in across our border unchecked? Because Joe Biden has opened up the border wide open. He refuses to build the wall. He refuses to take us back to the policies that were at least keeping most of them down in Mexico and, all the other countries. There's a whole bunch, Venezuela, Certainly Venezuela wasn't emptying out their prisons and sending them to the United States border, but now they are. So something has changed. What is that? It's Joe Biden, the worst president in the United States history. I can't say it enough or loud enough. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to talk about on Thanksgiving dinner this year. I don't care if there's liberals around, they start melting down. I might just bring this list with me and read these off and see if other people at the table with, reasonable minds that are capable of thinking outside of the MSM narrative are in agreement with me, or if they disagree and want to have an argument about it, because I've got the freaking proof here. They can say all the stuff they want about how Trump was bad, Trump was a racist, Trump was evil, Trump was a misogynist, but they never provide proof. I'm providing the proof right here. Joe Biden is the worst president in the United States history. I believe he was brought in to bring the United States to destruction. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, everything that's gotten us this far, they want to destroy that. So Joe Biden allowed tons of illegal drugs to enter the country via the open borders, causing over 100,000 annual deaths. So remember when the COVID was going on and we had an election cycle going on and every single COVID death they blamed on Donald Trump? When are we going to start hearing responsible investigative journalists doing reports about the 100,000 annual deaths that, that's what's increased because of Joe Biden's open border policies? Ever? Are we ever going to hear that? Or are you going to have to come to places like the Hands On channel to get that kind of information? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Every single body that died because of COVID or even related to COVID, even though many times it wasn't even COVID, the guy would die from a car wreck and they'd say, he had COVID, he died. He'd go, yep, that's cause of death. You remember all the propaganda. We're not going to rehash all that. Next up, Joe Biden pushed the U.S. economy into recession in 18 short months. And it's about to get worse. You guys feel it. Go to the store. Look at things. Now that's inflation, but you can just feel it in the atmosphere. We're in a recession. They don't want to admit it. They've changed the definitions of recessions because that's what communists do. That's what Orwellian, dictators do. They change the definition until it makes it sound okay. So we're in real trouble, guys. Last one here. Joe Biden's foreign policy is going to destroy Europe and could launch a nuclear war with Russia. We've never been closer in my lifetime to nuclear war, nuclear annihilation, nuclear Armageddon, as Biden called it. Of course, a couple days later, he backed off of that and said, oh, no, I was being hyperbolic. I didn't mean real nuclear Armageddon, blah, blah, blah. It's just unbelievable. These people get away with talking out of both sides of their mouth because there is no responsible investigative journalists out there that are willing or capable of getting their news out anymore. That ought to scare you. These are the facts, guys. We're in a lot of trouble. I got to get back out here in the woods and clear my mind with some chainsawing and getting myself a spot ready for SHTF bug out location, because I'm feeling it. The pressure, you know, the screws are tightening every day. Every day we wake up, the screws are getting tighter and tighter. Your dollar is buying less and less. Rents are going through the roof. The price of food is going through the roof. Gasoline. Oh, by the way, I just want to mention this on the outro, because I don't know if this got widely covered or not. Certainly the MSM didn't pick this up, but you know, not too long ago, Biden was over in Saudi Arabia fist bumping, you know, the leaders over there, right? Trying to get them to, you know, play ball with him. He's basically telling them, hey guys, I've shut down all of the United States energy production. No one's really allowed to drill oil anymore, or it's not very profitable for them to do it. So we've essentially shut down the United States, you know, energy production system. So we need you to come in here and pump a bunch of oil so that our prices stay low until the midterms. He actually said 1 month. It is a classic example of quid pro Joe, I guess we'll call it. Joe Biden went over there or called him or whatever and said, hey, you know, we need you to keep that production up for another month until after midterms. Saudi got back with him and said, yeah, we're going to cut production now by double, 2 million barrels. So get ready, hang on guys. Fuel prices are fixing to explode. All of this stuff Biden's been doing, you can't do it forever. You can't keep tapping the strategic reserve forever without consequences happening. So again, I believe the worst president in the United States history was brought in intentionally, put into place as a Manchurian candidate to destroy everything good about the United States of America. And as a result of that, everything good about the West all around the world. If you're in another country, Australia, Europe, anywhere over there in another country that's westernized, you're in real trouble, especially if the United States falls. Guys, get your bug out locations ready now. I think we're going to be needing them real soon. Have a plan, have survival food, have survival clothing, have, you know, a stack of wood out there so you can keep warm during the dark winter that's probably coming. We're not going to launch into it because the video is getting long, but go check out Operation Cyber Polygon or something like that. It was Klaus Schwab talking about what would happen if a major cyber attack took over the entire world. It could be worse than the COVID. They're talking about shutting down the entire system. And also, you know, there's that cable that runs from the United States to Europe underground, or under the water, under the ocean. Russia could go in there and blow that up, or some other actor could go in there and blow that up and shut us off. Probably would send our economy into a tailspin overnight. Be like the Great Depression, only now you're surrounded by a bunch of people that have no idea what's going on because they're drunk on comfort. They're drunk on the MSM Kool-Aid. They don't have any clue of what's really going on. And when this hits them, when the rug gets pulled out from under them, they're going to panic. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. And that's why I'm out here making myself a potential bug out location so that my wife and I, and maybe my daughter, will be able to survive the coming apocalypse.